I'm a huge fan of Harley Quinn, but I think at times when I'm reading modern comics, it can be a little bit hard to tell what her overall plans are. Plus, the series now has a much different direction thanks to the reformed nature of Harley Quinn, as she's even fighting with Batman in some cases. DC recently introduced a new kind of love interest for the Joker, being Punchline. And DC even was able to follow up on the excellent work that they've been publishing for Punchline over the past couple of years with a brand new title called Punchline the Gotham Game. My name is Arco Braddock, and today let's go ahead and dive deep into Punchline the Gotham Game #1. Before we get any deeper into the video, want to encourage you guys to consider subscribing to the channel if it's your first time checking out our content, and please feel free to go ahead and hit that like button as well. Now I want to tell you a little bit about the creative team behind Punchline the Gotham Game #1. This issue is written by both Tini and Blake Howard. We have art from the excellent Gleb Melnikov, colors from Luis Guerrero, letters from Becca Carey, and the cover is also illustrated by interior artist Gleb Melnikov. I'll be showing that to you in just a moment. I want to read off the solicitation text. You guys have a little bit more context behind all of the insane plot developments that have happened to Punchline in the main Batman title. Punchline is out of jail and back on the streets of Gotham City. She's not coming back for some of what Gotham has to offer. She's coming back for all of it. She wants to be the queen of crime, and with the help of her royal flush gang, no one will stand in her way. But Punchline created a lot of angry enemies in Gotham before she was incarcerated, and they all want payback. Presenting a miniseries that will redefine the criminal landscape of Gotham City from the superstar creative team of Tini Howard, Blake Howard, and Gleb Melnikov. All right, so I think that's a pretty good preview for the issue. Let's go ahead and show off the cover for the comic book. This is from Adventures in Poor Taste. Big thanks to them for posting these previews so quickly for all these comic book issues. And this is our cover from Gleb Melnikov. At this point, I maybe just want to take a step back and talk a little bit about the history of Punchline, kind of like where you can read about it, and just to give you a little bit more context behind this character. So over in the main Batman run from James Tynion and Jorge Jimenez, there was a lot of content featuring the Punchline character. Tynion really dug deep into this new villain that was created. And really, the interesting thing about Punchline across the kind of her appearances in Batman and the Joker comic book was how Punchline was able to kind of manipulate the media. It was almost like even after she was caught doing horrible things, she was still trying to profess her innocence. And this level of like intellectual dishonesty has permeated so many parts of our like political consciousness that having this sort of like narrative in a Batman comic is exactly the sort of depth and complexity I'm looking for. So I was overjoyed to hear that Punchline was acquitted from her recent crimes and is now back on the streets of Gotham wreaking absolute havoc. So I was very concerned about what the tone of this series would be, because a lot of the previous Punchline content was written by James Tynion the Fourth, and this new Punchline miniseries features Tini and Blake Howard. So I think the duo do a really phenomenal job here, keeping that intellectual tone of Punchline with sort of like, the dumb fun of the issue. I think this series as a whole does a wonderful job kind of towing that line where it's trashy enough to appeal to kind of like newer readers, but it's also kind of deep enough to keep people who are interested in really deep characterization. It also has those elements as well. I think this book also is going to make a really good pair for, the Joker series that finished from Tiny as well. So yeah, this issue as a whole just features Punchline starting to get back on her feet after she's gone through, her trial, and now she has escaped prison and is a free woman now. And in this issue, really kind of shows her, basically leaving the trial and figuring out what's next in her life. And that's where I think this issue really does a solid job, because there's something about Punchline, Alexis Kaye, where people just want to naturally like her, even though she's done so many awful things. And that sense of goodwill extends to this issue. So I want to talk a little bit about Gleb Melnikov's art here. Gleb Melnikov just recently came off of the Robin miniseries, or not but the ongoing series. And you probably wouldn't expect to see Melnikov's art in a kind of crime-ridden Joker adjacent series. I think overall Melnikov pulls on a different sense of his comic book skills in order to show how this really gritty nature in his art can be applied to a different context, especially like how this scene where a streamer is fighting off some of Joker's henchmen. I think it looks really wonderful here. Also, this book has so much talking heads, and Melnikov is a really great artist at showing a lot of action but also drawing these talking head scenes. Take a look at this first page, where this is just essentially a trial scene, but it's made so kind of epic by the layout of the page and the group of people that are surrounding the crowd. Also, the way Melnikov executes some of these facial expressions really shows, and I think builds a connection between the reader and the artwork as a whole. So overall, this issue is really solid. Actually, I think it's great, but there are a couple nitpicks I have overall that I wanted to go ahead and address. So the first one is that this opening with the streamer character, it does lead somewhere, but the level of cringe that this streamer character evokes makes it almost to the point where it's not really necessary to have them here in the first place if they're just driving a big part of the plot. I think maybe that sense of cringe could have been avoided if the script was written a little bit differently. Also, there are some interesting moments with the Royal Flush Gang in the issue, but I think that their introduction is kind of another problematic point in the script, just because it looks like a different kind of scene is being set up here that maybe has like some romantic elements. And there's a sense of like cheesiness when, that interaction turns a little bit violent that I wish maybe the creative team could have overcome. So even though there were those elements in the issue that I wasn't a huge fan of, the end of the issue was able to really kind of put the plot back into gear and I think refocus the rest of the series. I think coming into this issue, the thing that I was the most afraid of is that they were going to lose that noir sensibility that Tiny had spent so much time working up with this character. But the plotting here is extremely complex. A Punchline's plan is being orchestrated in real time, but there's so many different facets to it. I really have to commend both Howards here for their script. I really feel like instead of just kind of holding readers at arm's length, they're giving them all the pieces that they need to figure out what's next for Punchline and what she's trying to do. And when we get a comic book that's essentially this coherent and has this much depth to it, I'm just going to be a big fan from day one, essentially. Also, really like how Melnikov's art is being utilized here, and hope we get Melnikov in a lot of different Batman contexts. I love that he's staying in the Batman universe, but he's not just drawing those same Robin characters because he's moving over to Punchline. So I want to know, did you think that Punchline the Gotham game #1 had this sense of really deep characterization that I found? Do you find Alexis Kaye Punchline interesting as a character? I want you guys to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Really appreciate you all the support you guys have given me recently, and I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you very soon for more excellent comic book content. Bye.